Good morning to viewers here in the U.S. and around the world. It is Friday, June 24th, and I'm Brianna Keeler with John Berman. We're tracking the fallout from a fifth day of testimony at the January 6th committee hearings. This morning, fingers are pointing, denials are flying, and Trump world is reeling. CNN has spoken to several former Trump administration officials and allies, and they acknowledge that yesterday's testimony from former Justice Department officials was damaging. We have much more damaging, they believe, than the previous four hearings, even bleak. The officials laid out how Trump attempted to weaponize the Justice Department for his political gain, pressuring them relentlessly with demands like this.
What I'm just asking you to do is just say it was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman.
That pressure, those calls, it was relentless almost daily. Pressure to say things that were not true, that these officials told the president were not true, and pressure to do things that arguably were not legal. Then there was the scheme to install this man, Jeffrey Clark, an environmental lawyer and election lie promoter, into the top job at Justice. Federal investigators raided Clark's home Wednesday, the day before he was to be the focus of the congressional hearing. Clark described the raid overnight.
At one point, 12 agents and two Fairfax County police officers went into my house, searched it for 3.5 hours. They even brought along something, Tucker, I've never seen before or heard of, a electronic sniffing dog. And they took all of the electronics from my house.
And new fallout this morning from revelations that 6 Republican lawmakers sought preemptive pardons from former President Trump before and after the attack on the Capitol. That is according to emails and testimony revealed by the January 6th committee.
Was Representative Gage requesting a pardon?
Believe so. The pardon that he was requesting, was as broad as you could describe.
Mr. Biggs did. Mr. Jordan talked about congressional pardons, but he never asked me for one. Mr. Gomer asked for one as well. And Mr. Perry asked for a pardon too. I'm sorry.
Did Marcia contact you?
No, she didn't contact me about it. I heard that she had asked White House Counsel's Office for a pardon.
So what were the roles of the pardon seekers in January 6th? Let's bring in Tom Foreman to walk us through that. Tom?
If you look at all 6 of the folks who we're talking about right now, they've all forwarded some version of either this didn't happen or I wasn't asking for myself or you don't understand the circumstances. But let's look at who has been talked about here. Mo Brooks from Alabama. He spoke at the Stop the Steal rally on January 6th. Remember that big quote? Start taking down names and kicking ass. That's what he told the crowd. Said this week that he's willing to testify, but only if it's in public. And Trump rescinded his endorsement of Mo Brooks for all of that in March in his race down there. Matt Gaetz down in Florida. He also echoed Trump's lies about the election, saying he won when in fact Joe Biden won. He defended Trump right after the January 6th attack on the Capitol. And it's not clear what his pardon request would be about because his request, according to what we heard in the hearing, was incredibly sweeping. It was for basically his entire existence up until this point. He should be cleared of everything. Remember this big investigation in Florida about possible sexual trafficking there that he has been implicated in some fashion, so we don't know about that. Representative Scott Perry in Pennsylvania, he pushed the whole scheme for Jeffrey Clark to take over the Department of Justice during White House meetings, according to a former aide to Mark Meadows. He acted as a conduit between Clark and Trump in this whole effort to overturn the election. That's what the testimony has shown. Andy Biggs in Arizona, he was pushing there for the Arizona GOP House Speaker, Rusty Bowers, who we've heard a lot about, to throw out the Biden electors and put in Trump electors. This is really the heart of the state level scheming that has come out in all of these hearings. The idea of saying state by state, just throw out what the voters wanted, put in the people you want, and say that is what our state is for. In all cases, they wanted to favor Trump. Representative Louis Gohmert down in Texas, he spearheaded the lawsuit seeking to force Vice President Pence to throw the election to Trump. And days before the January 6th attack, they reportedly flagged, the Capitol Police reportedly flagged comments by Gohmert as being potentially insightful of violence there. He is one who is gone the route of saying, yeah, if I had conversations like this, it was for other people, not for me, if I was seeking any kind of pardons there. And then Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from down in Florida, who just routinely has spread false claims about the 2020 election and a lot of other things. She referred to the efforts to challenge the election results as our 1776 moment. Again, almost all of them have forwarded some version of saying, it wasn't for me, or I didn't do it, or you don't understand the circumstances. But, as you've noted earlier today, as we'll be noting a lot as we move forward, if in fact the testimony is true, that gives some sense of an awareness, a notion that there was possibly something being done illegally here and that it shouldn't be done. And importantly, really important to note, all of the implication of all of these people in this testimony is not coming from Democrats, progressive, liberals, people who are out to get them. The implications are coming from the Trump team, from people within Trump land, which is going to make it difficult for them to keep saying, I wasn't involved, everyone's lying about me.
Yeah, very helpful context. Tom Foreman, thank you.
So one of the key moments from the latest hearing was this from former acting Deputy Attorney General Richard Donahue.
Let's take a look at another one of your notes. You also noted that Mr. Rosen said to Mr. Trump, quote, DOJ can't and won't snap its fingers and change the outcome of the election. How did the president respond to that, sir?
He responded very quickly and said, essentially, that's not what I'm asking you to do. What I'm just asking you to do is just say it was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman.
Right, joining me now, former federal prosecutor Daniel Goldman. He was lead counsel and former